Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another segment this is also the first of its kind segment of the Science Communication Hub Nigeria podcasts titled The Story of a Researcher. In, in this type of podcast, we usually host scientists, researchers that are versatile in the field of research to discuss their journey, the impact they are having on the society, and their experiences and create chance for mentorship, as well as be able to communicate to the general populace about what a researcher, what is the impact of a researcher in the society, what is the importance of a researcher in the problem solving when it regards to that society, especially in Nigeria, where the impact of science and the impact of researchers is not well understood. Today, we host Dr. Umar Ahmad, um, who is the founder of Open Science Community in Nigeria. In terms of research specialization, he is an expert bioinformatician. He is also a genomicist, and he holds several titles as well. I knew him not from now. I knew him a while ago. He has been my mentor, and it's a privilege for me to host him today. And I know he has his background from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, where he did his BSc in human anatomy. He further proceeded with his MSc and PhD in Malaysia, where he became expert in bioinformatics, especially in the field of bladder cancer. After that, he has focused and worked in various endeavors post-PhD, having impact across West African region and the African region, especially when it comes to the how prepared are we in tackling the pandemic like we face of the COVID-19. Because what we observed during the COVID-19, there is lack of data, genomics data of the Africans, and it hindered our participation in developing a vaccine and a lot of things and cure in the simple layman's term. People like Dr. Umar have been participating actively to see how our population can be represented because of our uniqueness and how we will also be able to tackle infectious diseases like malaria, especially that has been bedeviling our society. Thank you, Dr. Umar, for joining us at this hour.
Thank you so much, Zaid, for having me this afternoon. It is a great pleasure to be with you and have an engaging discussions in this podcast.
Thank you. So it's going to be more or less of a freestyle discussion because I know we have diverse people watching us or will watch us eventually. The language will be plainly kind of not deeply scientific unless needed, and it will be open discussion. And I will have some questions, and I can chip in to ask more questions if need be. And as usual, as we can see, our viewers can send their questions at the end of the segment, 15 minutes, end of the hour. We will be reading out the questions loud to our speaker, and he will answer it. So my first question to you, Dr. Omar, can you tell us, like me, people in the studio and other people listening to us, about your research background?
Okay, thank you, Zaid, once again. Basically, my research focuses more on genomics profiling of particularly bladder cancer, and specifically looking at the mechanisms of oncolytic viral therapy, which is the use of some natural viruses in treating cancer cells, and also investigating the transcriptomics landscape of the bladder cancer itself. My work involves actually large-scale genomics data sets using high-throughput sequencing technologies such as RNA-seq, single cells sequencing technology, as well as the whole genome sequencing. In the past, I have extensively studied persistency of infection using NDV virus on bladder cancer cell lines to actually discover key transcriptomics and proteomics changes over time that contribute to viral persistency and therapeutics resistance. Why does the virus is not treating the cancer cells as we expected, because we know this virus is actually a natural virus that can kill any types of human cancer cells. While in the course of this research, we discovered that some specific subset of cell lines were not actually feeling the virus. The virus cannot even make effects on, or cytotoxic effects on the cells. So the research went on to look at the protein-protein interactions. What are the types of proteins that got interacted with the NDV when blood cancer cells got infected? The NDV to actually identify a crucial host genes, pathways that are associated with the system. So basically, my research actually integrates bioinformatics, molecular biology, and computational tools to actually unravel complexity of genomics. Also in approach, I involve my where it actually led me to a software, an bioconductor software designed to analyze pathogens. And I believe these tools will definitely aid in health decision making by streamlining the of pathogen genomics.
I don't know, like we're having some network challenges. I know Dr. Umar is not in the country and kind of in transit. So we're just having some problem with Dr. Omar, but like what he's been saying, and I think for the sake of the non-scientific community, to explain it in layman's term when it comes to talking about genomics. So I think, and I might be because I'm not really an expert in genomics, but genomics is like, if we say, for example, the genes in the body, it all has to relate with everything that concerns the body. So deeply in each cell, you have the copy of all the program necessary for the production of all the processes that will have that do happen inside the body. And you usually have millions and billions of them, those codes that are specific. So each kind of organ has some specific way of producing the proteins and the processes that are necessary for carrying on all the activities. For example, you wake up in the morning and you have a skin that seems to be much more flashy than yesterday. It's the activity of cells that have died, and you have cells that have been renewed, which is usually governed by the programs of the body. So deeply now into science, we have people that are studying deeply how does the program in the body do. Okay, so we have a chat from the we have lost our speaker, and before that, I think, okay, he's back. Thank you. Sorry, Dr. Omar, we lost you, and I'm just trying to explain to our audience, even though I'm not an expert in genomics, what kind of in layman's language, what does genomics mean? And I know you have mentioned a lot of wonderful and amazing science and things you've been doing, especially this is a time we need it. in our society. And for the sake of the non-scientifics, I'm just telling them like the program of the body and how the study of that program is really, really, really important. And especially studying the African genetics is really important. So let me just give you the podium and you continue telling us about your research.
Okay, thank you so much. I apologize for the network glitches. What I was saying is my research was primarily focusing on the genomics of bladder cancer profiling, specifically using oncolytic Newcastle disease virus. When we talk about oncolytic, we specifically means any natural viruses that have the ability to kill cancer cell lines naturally. That's what we mean by oncolytic. So virotherapy is the use of viruses to treat cancer cells. So in my research, we basically explore the potential use of Newcastle disease virus, which is an oncolytic viruses that have the potentials, to kill several human types of cancer cells. In my research, we make use of the NDV to infect bladder cancer cells and investigate the transcriptomic landscape, specifically on the urothelial cell carcinoma. So my work basically involves analyzing large-scale genomics data set using high-throughput sequencing, such as RNA-seq, single-cell sequencing technology, and whole genome sequencing. I have also extensively studied persistent infections in bladder cancer cells to specifically uncover, transcriptomics and proteomics changes over time to look at the contributions of the viral persistence and therapeutics resistance in the cells. Additionally, my studies also look at the protein-protein interactions network and the pathways that could serve as a therapeutic target, which I integrate generally bioinformatics, molecular biology, and computational tools to unravel this complexity of cancer genomics and also improve in precision medicine approach. Recently, in collaboration with some fellow researchers in the Africa or in the continents, I was able to expand my focus on infectious diseases, particularly pathogens that have the potentials to, causes an outbreak infections. That leads me to actually develop a software on R or R/bioconductor, which actually contributes to analysis of viral pathogens or bacterial pathogens or any pathogens with pandemic potentials, from sequencing down to public health decision making. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, loud and clear. Wow, that's really, really. So I know to kind of the non-scientific community, a lot of the things might be jargon, but to try to simplify it, like in the processes of the cell, where you have instantaneously within each second while you are just doing your normal activity, trillions of processes are going on at the same time, which usually involve from the genes, like the program of the body, then it will be read into RNA, messenger RNAs that will move out to form proteins, and those proteins are necessary for the all activities and the processes. So what Dr. Umar is saying, all those stages are fields and really complex on its own. And what they do is like they use sophisticated computer languages to kind of study these processes as it's related to cancer, specifically the bladder cancer, and they're using the viruses. I know everyone knows about cancer. We probably in our family will have one or two person that probably died of cancer or is suffering from cancer. That's very, very wonderful. So to proceed next, Dr. Omar, what really kind of ignites your interest in this kind of research? Because this is something that probably that as we grow up, we usually with genetics and all schools, but it's usually theoretical. You just know about the adenine and the thymine and the processes and that's all. But this is kind of like which really, really hardcore and kind of specified, like what is the interest, where does it begin?
Thank you so much, Zaid. Actually, I study anatomy, my undergraduate at ABU, with its courses in genetics. That was from where I started becoming passionate toward genetics. And later on, while I was doing my master's, and I realized the field was actually expanding and, expanding into genomics and bioinformatics, computational biology, and all that as we move. So what basically drew my attention to this is because of its power to change the way healthcare systems are. People thought everything could just be limited to the clinical arms to solve problems, but we don't know that even at molecular levels, we need to use think about how we can dissect the DNA, RNA, and even down to protein to investigate some diseases, that bedevils our populations. So in the basic terms, when we talk about genomics, is basically the study of our DNA. DNA is an instructions that make us who we are. Just like the way I'm taking my hand off and on, is actually the functions of DNA, because the products of proteins that causes, my hand lets it move, is all because of the DNA functionality in my body. So these instructions, as what we call the DNA, actually we use it to improve diagnosis. In the clinics, develops better treatments, even tailored treatment. Nowadays, people with, for example, like diabetics patients, patient with cancer, can the biotech companies or industry or the university level that are into biotechnology systems can design specific drugs that can target one individual at a time. And that is what actually makes my passion to say, okay, let me dive into these fields and learn about it. Even these fields can also predict the risk of you having a disease in future. When we have like a total genomes of your body or an individual or organism's body DNA, will be able to predict what could happen, what could possibly happen with your body, what kind of disease that is likely to happen to you, and all that. Even is this disease going to pass on from generation to generation? We'll be able to track that. And even during COVID-19, for example, you might have realized, how do we know that this virus or this variant is coming from, let's say, Canada, or this is coming from US? Is simply because we are analyzing all the genomics data of all these COVID sequences and understand and traces where it originally comes from, and what kind of changes it has in the sequences of the DNA and all that. So the impacts for patient care, public health, is what actually drive my passion for this field. Thank you.
No, that's really, really interesting, and for the listeners and especially for the students, I think it should be a very, very good inspiration. Looking into the fact that this is a kind of something that is developed along the way, but it's a kind of something that looking far beyond the opportunities that one has at his disposal at a particular point in time. So thank you very much. You talk about crucially about especially when in regard to the location, like probably in terms of Canada, in terms of the location as it related to the COVID. So I know definitely we have our challenges in Nigeria, and most of the times it's because the public or the politicians or the policymakers don't really understand the power of research holds. How crucial do you think, like for example, research, in particular genomics research, is to the Nigerian development or to the healthcare system in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you once again, Zaid. I think the research in Nigeria is very, very essential, very, very vital. Any country you see it developing is actually because they focus in developing research systems or ecosystems that can, make them promote in terms of, boosting their economy, solving a lot of health challenges, and even shaping the better policy in the country. We cannot do all those things without having to do with research. So with strong research, we can actually be informed to make decisions that improve lives and also drive national development and progress as a nation. If you look at other countries that really developed, like Germany, they are knowledge economy people. UK, Germany, Canada, and all these advanced countries. They are knowledge-based economy. They can develop a simple vaccine, 1 mil of vaccines, and sell it in billions of crude oil dollars that we have in Nigeria. So I think it's high time Nigeria to start looking inwards to invest more in research, because it will definitely boost our economy and also shape the policies that we may have in future, including the healthcare systems. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's really a wonderful answer. And I know that from your profile, you are also an academician, and we know most of this research you've been mentioning, especially that with your experience and the expatriate, and you have had the opportunity to visit to see how it's done in those you mentioned, and as like the economy-rich countries, like the research-based, knowledge-based economies. So, and usually you have that done in the universities. How is the structure of the Nigerian university when it comes to research? And what do you think should be implemented in the Nigerian system to kind of like make it better?
Okay, thank you once again. I think from what I observe in those countries as compared to Nigeria, the most significant challenges is in Nigerian system is actually limited funding. Looking at these advanced countries, they have almost all the ministries and parastatals in those countries are funding agencies in a way that support universities, local institutions to do one or two research to solve specific problems in that country. So funding, coupled with inadequate research facilities in our institutions are really the key challenges, I know. And additionally, bureaucratic, bottlenecks and insufficient mentorship programs in most of our universities is very, very difficult for researchers, especially the young ones, to actually excel in the systems. Because wherever you go, take for example, in those advanced countries, whenever you had a PhD, you come back to the country as a PhD holder, they have, what they call start of grant, to give you grant as a PhD holder to start a lab or start doing something, because they know you are important, you can add value to the economy. In terms of reforming the systems in the country and universities and institutions in Nigeria to better support the researchers and academicians in the system, is I think the government funding agencies need to be expanded. I think in Nigeria we only have one funding agency, which is TED Fund, Tertiary Education Trust Fund. I think there is needs to have tens and more number of TED funds agencies, or let's encourage other ministries and parastatals in the country to support researchers across different disciplines, including sciences, social sciences, engineering, medicine, and other views. So universities need to really invest in research funding itself, improve in facilities and create a better reward system for researchers who does what and what are the things that he got. Just like we recently saw that Ahmadu Bello University has started leading the way by, rewarding most of its top cited researchers in the world. This is the kind of encouragement that we need to be giving to researchers. So they should also encourage in collaboration with industries and global institutions to boost innovations and impact in the systems.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I think of crucial importance is funding, because without funding, we know research is expensive, but we need the government and funding agencies to do more. Taking into that, I think the money allocation for the only NIH in the US is greater than the whole budget of Nigeria. So even from that's how serious people are with research, and that's how people think their research. And even with the current Trump administration, with the old going on with the visa something, the only people that will be granted green card are those doing PhDs. So showing the importance of researchers. And I think for any country like Nigeria, for example, where we have a lot of brains and a lot of resources, I think that we need the government and the universities to have a reform that will make sure to attract and enhance and create an environment where we will be harnessing those resources we have. Thank you very much for doing that. Shifting the gear. I know you kind of partake in a lot of projects. You've said it yourself, and we have looked that up as well. And of notable, something is one that is kind of having making an echo in the recent research world, which is open science. And looking into that, you established an organization known as the Open Science Nigeria. Pardon me if I don't pronounce it's OSCN for abbreviation.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about OSCN and why do you founded OSCN?
Okay. Thank you so much, Zaid, once again. Open science, I think is new thing to many of us in Nigeria, and but in the global community, people have really advanced in this space. So what basically Open Science Community Nigeria, I mean OSCN, means simply Open Science Community Nigeria. Um, I was actually a moderator at the preprint services. We have, different archive or platforms or repositories where scientists are actually sharing their manuscript drafts, before they publish it to the world. They get DOI, make it, a digital object, something like that, to archive it. In the process, I got to learn that things are happening around the global space and researches, but we are far left behind in Nigeria. So I also look at most of our researchers in Nigeria. We are actually, publishing in predatory journals, the journals that are not really following COPE, that is Committee of Publication Ethics. People don't know. Yes, we have the data. We curate the data. We analyze the data. We wrote the manuscript, and at the end of the day, maybe coupled with the pressure to publish in academics to get promoted, people rush to publish to those predatory journals. So I thought of developing a space where scientists and community researchers in Nigeria could come together to actually look at all these issues, to inform them the existence of, other tools that they can make use of and how they can differentiate between the predatory journals, the standard journals, and all it. So that is how I got started, and I thought of coming, out with this name, Open Science Community Nigeria, specifically to help in promoting transparency in scientific research, encourage open data sharing. Like most of us, we analyze our data and then we end up giving it in our laptops, and sometimes it even got lost. Nowadays, thanks to publishing industries and publishers nowadays, they are asking researchers and authors to share their data, to encourage transparency, global visibility, and all that. So the aim was actually to reduce barriers in accessing research output, because so many of our scientific output are not even on the internet, are not online, because almost 90% of our academic journals in Nigeria are physically not online. You cannot even see them online. But we have thousands of journals, but they are not existing, because we don't have the funding to support the journal management systems, to cover it, paying thousands of dollars, to be archiving all this and even to get it indexed. So the idea was to ensure equitability in participations for research, and also encourage global integrations of Nigerian scientists. That was what actually informed my decision to, come up with the idea of establishing the platforms, and also, gradually people will get to understand the stage to follow when publishing researchers, and also be informed on the researchers where authors are being asked to share their data. Thank you.
Yeah, that's look really, really inciting, and it's kind of something that we really need, especially in the research world in Nigeria. Talking of that, I know if we look at the reality on the ground, especially when it comes to the Nigerian universities and how the NUC does its promotion, usually the researchers or academicians, or rather say, rely on publication in the local journals available at home, which are really, really cheap when you compare them to the journals, probably international renowned journals, in which probably you pay 20,000 to publish. But when for example, even small journals, you have to pay, talking about like $2,000 or something, which is usually covered by the grant. And I
Yeah.
know part of the limitation is also that in terms of the journal system in which we use. Do you think this open science will kind of not only be a place for archive of the data, but will also, I don't know, be able to provide a platform where that is the journal? I don't know how it's going to be for the work, especially you say our work are unrecognized. Data about our people are not available because partly it's not done well, or partly we don't have it online. So is it kind of is it in the covers of also the OSCN, or is something probably you will be thinking about in the near future?
Thank you so much for these questions. Actually, part of our future plans for open science community in Nigeria is to have an open access platform in addition to open science itself, where our local scientists will be able to publish their manuscript. And this is our, discussions with many of the partners that we have, and then we are looking at a way that we can establish those platforms, because as it is now, I think even in the continent in Africa, we don't have a single journal management systems that belongs to Africans. And that's
Wow.
the truth. And most of these journal management systems are developed by the Europes, and the global north. So we need to think a way forward. What are the journal management systems? We have experts in computer scientists. In computer science area. I think that locally that we can, leverage their skills, to tell us. To give them specific things that we really want to do. The idea, the concept, so that they can develop our own platforms that can be used for Africa to share their manuscript, publish freely, even at a subsidized rate. So that was actually a future plans by Open Science community in Nigeria. Is part of what we hope to, but at the moment we are enlightened and sensitizing people to get to know what that open science means at the moment.
Mm.
Thank you.
Wow. So that's really, really interesting. And it seems to be the problem is much bigger than Nigeria. It's the whole of Africa. I hope we find solution
Yeah.
very soon. Yeah.
So
Going
hopefully.
deeper, do you have what can you share with us any specific projects you plan to undertake? You're just in the first quarter of the year. What specific project do you plan to undertake on the OSCN this year in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you so much for these questions. I think OSCN is gradually expanding. We are trying to incorporate open science education, just like the UNESCO. You can Google UNESCO, they have their open science initiatives. Open Science, NASA in the US, they also have their own different initiatives. And so we are working hand in hand with them, because they are part of the global initiatives that we interacted with before. In fact, some of our team even we are trained by the NASA Open Science. Each of us have that certificate for Open Science, and which is a great plus to us. So what we plan basically for the quarter is to encourage open science education, research collaborations, and also policy advocacy to the government agencies. So we will host some workshops on open science tools, bioinformatics, data management, while strengthening partnership with NASA, open science, and global initiatives that dive into this area of open science, especially in the Netherlands, because most of the open science space really emanate from Netherlands people. They were the one that even conceptualized the thing and started it globally before other regions. So our efforts also include launching local chapters. We have in each of the region, we have regional coordinators in Nigeria that we hope they will one day, brings all the universities to even later on open offices for open science policy, develop some mentorships and networking programs. So that is what we aim to empower and also enhance global participations in open science community for Nigeria.
Well, that's really ambitious. We'll be looking up to see at the end of the year to the success of the things you just mentioned, and probably subsequent years as well. So this is in terms of the future. I know probably now it's almost a year since the establishment of the OSCN. What particular did you have you achieved any milestone, like, and how do you see the progress so far, and did you face any challenges, especially with sensitizing people about the openness in science, and how do you even entice people to do research in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you so much. Open Science, actually, we have successfully conducted several number of impactful workshops. Some are in-person meeting, which we actually didn't have the recording. Some are online, which we have the recordings on our YouTube. We built on a strong network. We increased, the active network of researchers' commitment to open science. I think as of yesterday, when I checked, we have over 100 institutions that register under our open science community platforms. Just that the participations when it comes to webinar and workshops are really, really very low, these are the challenges that we are really facing. And we also receive recognitions at the International Network of Open Science and Scholarships, which I am also part of the board members, which I was selected, was it last 2 years? I'm part of the board member for the International Network of Open Science that is based in Netherlands. So this space really, it helps us in establishing the key players in the space of open science, and also participated in open science community incubator programs, to which most of our teams participated to understand and increase their capacity to better come up with some idea on how they can further promote this open science in our, local chapters.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. As we pass through the half segment of the program today, I just want to draw attention to the listeners and viewers, and even those that will view us later on. If you have any question, you can type it in the comment box from the social media. Watching us live on the Facebook by RTC side, by RTC page and Science Communication page, as well as on our YouTube channel. You can just type the question for the speaker and we'll read it at the end of the program. Thank you. So in the course of highlighting the things, especially for the OSCN, and that is something you mentioned about the policy making, sensitizing the policy, and we know all the things we've been discussing today, from ranging to funding, from ranging to the implementation of and the reforms that should the university system and also the NUC should take into action, will involve a lot of policy. And definitely you cannot achieve that except where you have a body that sensitizes those concerned, universities, the NUC, and even the government, the local government, about policy making. And talking of that, I think you have also been recently introduced as given and kind of to the emirate of Miso as the Turaikin Gabas, and that is something that has to do with policy. Do you think, even though it is traditional, but we know traditional also leaders hold significant amount of power when it comes to the society, do you think that can relate to your mission and your work? How does it kind of your participation in the emirate as well as your work as a researcher? How do you tend to use that position to champion OSCN or research generally in Nigeria? I don't know if you can hear me. Sorry, the question is kind of long.
Sorry, Zaid, I can hear you. I think I got lost in the process. My
Okay,
network
okay, yeah. So let me just try to give you my question. So you've been introduced into the Emirate of Miso, which is your kind of your town, and you're given a position as the Turachin Gabas, which we say congratulations to that. We don't know.
Thank you.
Policy is really, really important, especially to what you have been mentioning today. with regard to the OSCN, with also regarding to funding a lot of things when it comes to research in Nigeria. Do you think that position you held, you just hold it now, as the Turaki in Misal Emirate, will be important in championing your own initiatives with regard to the OSCN? And how do you think it will be relevant?
Okay, thank you so much for these questions. And thank you for congratulating me for the traditional title, Striking Walingabas. To those who are in the traditional, emirate and councils, they know in the House of Fulani, what Turaki means is a highly esteemed and a kind of a trusted advisor to the emir, traditionally held by princes. So the roles basically is a kind of a liaison between the emir and the kingdom to facilitate communications and the governance. So I think looking at the title will really enhance community trust, which is very vital to open science missions of promoting open science. It also strengthens our ability, to engage with policymakers, institutions, and even from the grassroots communities because of the title. So that will really ensure research initiatives are locally relevant and very impactful. It also provides platforms to, advocate for policies that support scientific collaborations and knowledge sharing. That will really bridge traditional leadership with modern scientific advancements globally and even locally in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. That's really interesting, and we hope we'll have a kind of a new breed of researchers emerging from Nigeria that will share, that will have a lot of, because I would say you have a lot of work to do, because there is a lot of things to be done. If we really wanted to see the policies and things affecting our people are solved based on knowledge, based on research, based on evidences that are backed up by thorough research and thorough investigation into the problem. Recently, apart from you being in the Emirates, you've been everywhere, and we've cited you with the Minister of Health as well, in the person of Professor Muhammad Ali Pate. And we don't know what has been going on. And we know you're really versatile in genomics. We don't know, and you are a researcher, and those are the think tank when it comes to the health of the nation. And so, do you, in your interaction with the Minister of Health, did you kind of try to champion the open science or any research funding to Nigerians? Or what was the interaction? What is the sort of the interaction that happened?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think the Minister of Health, I can say the coordinating Minister of Health, Professor Muhammad Ali Fateh, has really been my mentor for over decades, in the fields of research, advice, guidance, mentorships, and all that. What basically, the discussions we really had with is actually the discussion around implementing genomics, strategy into our public health systems in Nigeria. So back then in 2024, I supported the Nigerian government, in establishing the National Genomic Surveillance Strategies, which is available online, and also serve as the National Technical Working Group for implementing the genomic surveillance strategies that was, established as a team with Nigeria CDC. I have also been instrumental in really in efforts to, institutionalize the National Genomics Consortium. So we selected some, institutions within Nigeria that we think can really help in supporting the implementation process of the national genomics strategies that we put in place for Nigeria. And this will really coordinate, and help in advancing genomics research worldwide and even in nationwide. So I also worked closely with policymakers, as I mentioned, like the minister in Nigeria, to advocate for robust genomics research infrastructure in most of the institutions we put as part of the NGC, which is National Genomics consortiums, and also to ensure that there is an integration of genomics into the national public health strategy systems. We are trying gradually to push genomics even into the clinical systems in Nigeria, just like, other advanced countries in UK. People are now doing genomics even at the clinical level, testing patients at genomics using sequencing technology to identify issues. We are pushing toward that, and we hope Nigerian government will give us support to do this. So my work focus on ensuring really that genomics play a central role for disease surveillance, precision medicine, and also healthcare innovations in Nigeria. That's what the discussions was around with the Minister of Health. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. This is really, really interesting. And I have to kind of ask something that's a question that I always ask myself. When you see at the portfolio of all the Nigerian appointees, from the Minister of Education to the Minister of Health to a lot of big brains residing that are Nigerians, residing in corners of the world that are making impact, are people that have extensive knowledge about how the global north operates. For example, the Minister of Health has been probably spent most part of his years in the US and know everything that happens there. You yourself have
Years.
extensive 29 years. Well, that's a lifetime, actually.
Yeah.
And you also, with an extensive knowledge of research and how it's done in other nations and have seen the impact and know the impact. The question is, we always see the likes, and before now the Minister of Health, there have been others, and you can mention the list will keep going on. The problem I always ask myself, why don't we see? We have people with immense amount of experience, and they know how it's done. Why do we still have a lot of problem? It seems the problem is not in the matter of policy. We have policymakers that are researchers. Why do we have it? Where do we get it wrong in which Nigeria is failing to have any policy for research, funding for research, enhancing the university when it comes to research, and doing any effort? Because that is basically the footprint of Nigeria when it comes to research is not really, really encouraging as far as the giant of Africa. Why do we get it wrong? This is I just want you for a personal opinion, I'm asking. So we lost our speaker. I think we are getting to the end of the segment, and I would like to encourage people to post your questions and we'll read it to the speaker when it comes to mentorship, if it relates to what we have discussed today, and if it relates to anything. That is what we are about, to see how we will encourage students, to see how we will encourage already established researchers, to create a community in which we will try to solve our problems, because our problems can only be understood by us, and only we, under the unison of research and investigation, will be able to solve those problems. Of course, we are having a lot of problem when it comes to our own local problems, our own local diseases, our own local terrain, that only if it is studied by people from that terrain will be able to understand how to solve it. But usually our healthcare and how we answer our questions, social science questions, everything, we rely on data collected outside the realm of our nation, which is collected on different set of people. Definitely there will be a lot of biases when we implement it on our own people. And that is the essence of this, to have a community that will be able to speak in unison when it comes to that. All right, we have our speaker back on stage. Thank you, and sorry for the network glitch. You're on transit, you're a busy man.
I'm sorry about that, Said.
Yeah, it's okay. So I was just asking for a personal opinion. I don't know if you have catch the question I just asked you before you left, or should I repeat it?
Yeah, if you can repeat, please.
Okay, so I said I have mentioned that we have wide array of people that have lived their lives, or have their lives, or have a very, very good experience when it comes to research and how it's done in the global north and the impact it has on the societal development. and how serious a nation should be when it comes to research. And often we see those people at the position of policy, at the position of power, but we still don't see any kind of policy being implemented in Nigeria when it comes to researchers, when it comes to creating a habitual environment for research, centers for research, funding for research. We don't. And to give you an example of that, I think just recently we have the flag off of the kidney research that happened in Yobe State.
Yobe.
And yes, exactly. And I heard that is one of the, I think, the biggest software in Nigeria supported by a government, not by a funding body outside, but by a state government. There is no any record of such a research being done. Why do we get it wrong? Why don't we have people that are in position of policy that know how it's supposed to be done, but we still see lack of policies, lack of funding, lack of enabling environment that will let research thrive? I'm just asking for your personal opinion because it's a question I keep asking myself and I don't know the answer. But the result is palpable. It's just anyone can just see it and know that okay, something is not going right here. And we have the people in power.
Well, thank you so much for these questions. I think I recently participated in quite a number of initiatives originated from the government. I can say the federal governments of Nigeria in particular, where most of the researchers were invited through TED funds, through NICRAT, that's the Nigerian Institute for Cancer Research, where we came together and developed some concept and share it with the government, thinking of having the potentials of getting funding to do those research. And recently, we also have a similar training in Abuja, where majority, or I can say almost all Nigerians, universities, researchers, we are actually invited. And in the discussions was that TED funds are trying to establish a specific center of excellence across all regions, to encourage research, to encourage local content researches by researchers in Nigeria. What I would just say is that the government is trying, but really is not as high as our expectations, being that we have experience abroad. We know what our supervisors then when we are doing PhD are getting. And we know the kind of grants that we are managing at a time. You see one supervisor having 10 to 15 grants as a single researcher, coming from different agencies in the government, is something to worry about. And I think one thing to think about is that we need to start thinking of translating our researches into actionable things. We will not just be, doing research and then just publish it like that. And say that, hey, we have Q1 paper, Q2 paper, and we could not, translate those research into an impactful initiatives. If we cannot do that, then I don't think any policymaker, that is how politicians are thinking. They say policy, because I have involved in several meetings and engagement with them in developing some framework, specific to the countries, even across Africa. I can tell you, they don't, for example, even though some of them, you can even find some doctors there who stay for like 10 years in UK, 20 years in UK. But when you come with an idea telling them all these scientific terms, they don't want to hear it. No. What is the solution orientations about this research? That is what physically their focus are. So I think it is a thing that you have, if our researchers can start thinking, translating the research into an action, to make it impactful. We see the results, what it is, what is the impact of this research. That is, I think, that way they will convince the politicians, the policymakers, and the governments to, turn it heads to ourselves and say, okay, let's start funding those kind of researches. Just look at what is happening at NICRAT. NICRAT is not that old. I think it's not that too old, the organizations. But look at what they are doing now. They are even, advertising for postdoctoral positions, but this is federal government agency. They are advertising positions. And I know of one of my colleague, Professor Mustafa Imam from Sokoto. He
Yeah.
also recently got grant from them, to support his
Yeah.
research. And we were even nominated, I and Professor Mustafa Imam, to be part of the cancer researchers in Nigerian space. So I think it's just that the input is too small for us, and they need to really increase the budget for the funding. And also we need to do a thorough pilot study to understand what is really our problems, bring out those problems, share it among ourselves. When I say among ourselves, the researchers in the country, irrespective of their disciplines, including social scientists, if they can make an impactful work, okay, share those. And we also need to advocate that our need to start doing multidisciplinary approach researches. Include everyone that you think can contribute into the work. And don't think like you see a paper from Nigeria coming from the same department of pathology, all of them, all the authors. That is, causing questionable, will not even cause the research or the data ourselves. Single department, how trusty is this? This is the very, very important things to try. Let us do justice to ourselves. Let us, bring in that we do as a research test, develop it into a full project. We move it forward. Even funding agents across the globe to reach out to you and say, hey, we need you for this and that. I cannot tell you the number of benefit I get my presence in media. I cannot say. It's a lot. We need to start creating our presence in media, like LinkedIn.
Exactly.
Share some of the researches that we are doing as a researcher. Even if you are doing it single-handedly, share your skills. What have you been doing? Let me tell you, even if you apply for, a job across the globe, people go to your LinkedIn X account to check what have you been doing over the last 10 years, so that they can see to cross-check whether it's really aligning with your CV and the cover letter that you wrote for that position. So it's high time, I think, we start thinking, changing our mind, doing what is really possible at our own limited resources. And then I can guarantee you the policy will actually support us. I recently had an interactions with some in Senegal. I was asking, why are they not funding institutions? Because I was in institutes. These are built a very large, complex genomics labs with well-equipped facilities.
Sorry, I'm gonna cut you short. We are running out of time. I think there is only one question I can see from the audience, and I think what you said is really, really relevant, and I really love the next segment. And to summarize, what we need a lot is science communication.
That's true.
So this,
That's true.
yes. So this is a question from I think Aliu Tafida Abdullah, who is asking: is there a molecular research institute in Northeast that you can recommend for students to carry their research there?
Yes.
I think so.
Research. I can say yes. There are quite a number of laboratories I know from northern Nigeria that you can do research. Basically, I can tell you, like even the BioRTC, in Yobe State, they are well equipped with those molecular equipment stuffs that you can make use of. And I know of molecular genomics and infectious lab in ASAPbio TH. They're also well equipped with equipment. And I know of laboratory for population medicine based in BUK. And also the Center for Biotechnology in BUK. They also have some molecular molecular stops that you can do research. But when it comes to even in Abuja, you can get like Nigeria CDC. They have everything that you can think about when it comes to genomic sequencing and bioinformatics. We have a lot actually, but this the basic one that I think anything that you need when you reach out, you'll definitely do the kind of research you aimed at doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer. And I think we don't have much more questions. We just have appreciations. And we have heard people commenting on our Facebook page. We thank you very much. All those watching from your best state, from Jigawa, from Saad, Zungur. Some people, Nabi Salis, you said a lot of things that is beautiful. Thank you very much, Owen. And for those that have waited patiently to the end of the segment, up to this month's segment of the Science Communication Hub Nigeria, we really thank our speaker, Dr. Umar Ahmad, for sharing your experience despite your busy schedule. We really have learned a lot, and we hope in our next segment, we will host also another policymaker to ask him specifically why, and those that are research and how, and to see what are the means that we should follow to enhance research and research impact and translational research in Nigeria. On behalf of all the team that work behind the scenes to make this possible, I thank our audience for staying to the end of the segment, and we will say meet you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you for having me.